Good afternoon to you, snooker fans, and welcome to this uh, pre-final, we're calling it, edition of the 15 Ray podcast. I'm Scott McCarter here in County Tyrone in Northern Ireland, and I'm joined from London, soon to be going back to Sheffield for the final, by my co-host Kelly Barker, who has some good news about her plans for this time next year. Good afternoon, Kelly.
Hello, Scott. How are you doing? Yes, we sort of delayed the podcast this morning so that I could get online and book my tickets for next year, which fortunately has all gone to plan. So I'm very happy and ready to celebrate with a podcast.
Indeed, indeed. Uh, and you've got the same arrangements as this year in terms of the number of sessions and so on. So that's
Yes, I've gone for the first 9 days again plus the final, which has worked quite well this year. I'd love to be there for all of it, but it does get rather expensive if you're doing so many sessions. So coming home this week, I've saved a bit of money and a bit of annual leave from work as well. So all in all, I'm happy, and yeah, good to know that next year is sorted.
well, what set of quarter-finals we've had. We left you sort of, were we sort of halfway through the quarters when we left? But
I think we were still at the back end of the second round when we were last here.
yeah,
So yeah, we haven't talked about the quarters yet, but what a set of matches and
yeah,
such a nice mix of players still in it as well. You know, we had the class of '92 still going strong. Trump, Lucas, Zingtong, you know, they're just flying. And yeah, it's all in all, it's been. I thought the quarters really threw up some great drama, and yeah, where else to start than with the Williams Higgins clash?
oh, I mean, this was tremendous, wasn't it? This was wonderful.
It certainly was. You know, I thought that final session going into it at 8-all, and Williams pulled away for 12-8. I thought, oh, as much as I really like Mark Williams. He's always been one of my favourites. But I thought when he pulled away for 12-8, I thought, oh, we're not going to really have the drama this morning now. But John had other ideas about that. And, you know, before when I was at work that morning, I had it on in the office and I was a bit busy, so I couldn't just watch it non-stop. But 12-all, blimey. And then that final frame, I was sure Higgins would win it the way it was going, but yeah, when he took that brown up the baulk cushion and then landed on the blue, and the blue was a little tricky, but I thought he'd get it after the brown. But when he left Williams in, I thought, wow, he had that very thin cut on the blue, and he
Yes.
landed perfect on the pink and won it on the black. But a true crucible classic. And I think in the weeks ahead, when we're a bit short of snooker, I'll definitely be going back and watching that final frame again.
Yes, I mean, everyone talks about, sort of recency bias coming in, but that is an instant crucible classic. I mean, you and I have been watching this championship for long enough between us to know we've seen a few matches in our time, and that's definitely one that'll live long in the memory banks. But, fair play to John. What a comeback it was to make it 12 all, but just faltered at the final hurdle. But uh, but you can't take anything away from Mark Williams and into the semi-finals for the eighth time.
Tremendous record, and both of them. I'd have been disappointed whoever lost that one after going toe to toe all that way, 25 frames, and for it to come down to the final black. Just incredible stuff. But like you say, Williams marches on. And the next quarter final was a little bit less dramatic, and it was all one way traffic really for Zhao Tong, who beat Chris Wakeling 13-5, and he's come back from the suspension, and what a player he is, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get to this morning in due course, but my goodness me, against Wakeland, and given that Wakeland had the two wins against Robertson and Allen under his belt, you know, not that you would, that match was a bit hard to call that one really, but I mean, Zhang Tong, he wasn't sort of absolutely lights out brilliant, but like he just sort of did enough, but it was marvellous the way
It
he
was,
destroyed
yes.
him, really.
I think this match was slightly lower quality than the others. And Wakeling himself, he said that, I think he put everything into the first two games. He didn't feel like he had a lot left in the tank by the time the quarter final came round.
Mhm.
But, Xing Tong, he's just from another planet, isn't he? You can see the work he must have been putting in whilst he wasn't playing on the main tour. Because this standard is just incredible. And like you say, we'll come on to this morning, but what a story it would be if he goes on and wins it, which, is gonna is looking good, I have to say. But yeah, as for Chris Wakeling, he's had a very fine season. Life's going well on and off the table for him. So I'm sure he'll be back next season. And he's got those two great wins against Mark Allen and Neil Robertson to cherish and look back on fondly. And I saw a little post he put on Facebook, and he says he's going to enjoy the summer and celebrate like he'd won it anyway, because it's been such a good season. So
Yeah,
well done to Chris.
very well done indeed. I mean, particularly that the run to the international championship final in the autumn, where he ran into Ding on home soil, which is never an easy task, of course, but that'll give him hope then of his Masters debut in January. Qualified here as well as winning the two matches, just missed out on a automatic seeding spot. So all in all, disappointed obviously with the performance against Joe, but definitely there's a lot more positives than there are negatives for Chris.
Definitely. He's like we said, he's had a very fine season, and this run to the Crucible quarter final, most players would be pleased with that, having come through qualifying. So yeah, well done him, and I'm sure we'll back into the top 16 as well now for the start of next season. So
Yeah,
very well done to him. But we'll move on to the next quarter final. And wow, Judd Trump beat Luca Brissell 13-8. But again, this was 8-all going into the final session. Luca's snooker was incredible at times. Because
yeah,
I think he lost the first session, if memory serves. And
yep,
but he got back into it, and it was 8-all at the end of the second session. But Trump really came on strong in the final session, won 5 in a row. Luca was under a bit of pressure then. But yeah, Trump looking very solid, and probably his best shout yet for going for this second world title.
very much so. Sixth semi-final appearance, I think, for Judd Trump. So, he's you know, let's make no bones about it. He's the world's number one for a reason. And like, you know, I mean, we'll come to think, but as of the end of the quarter finals, you definitely say that he was the favourite.
I think so. I think Zhao Xing Tong's got a bit of the X factor, and Mark Williams has got the experience, and Ronnie will come on too because he won his quarter final as well. But I think Trump has been the complete all round player now for several years, and
Yeah,
the way that it is a bit of an anomaly that he hasn't collected a second world title before now. But I
yeah,
think he's in the form of his life. He's in the peak. He's at the peak of his powers right now. And I
yeah.
think if he doesn't win it this year, Um, I'm not saying you would question whether he'll ever win it again because the standard's so good, but I do believe this is his best chance for a long, long time.
Yeah. Well, on Judd Trump, and maybe we'll get to this when we look back at things uh, at the end, depending on how things go. But really, the turning point for Judd Trump, I think, was he came to the Northern Ireland Open in Belfast in November 2018. He hadn't won a ranking title for 13 months. He had 8 ranking titles. That first Northern Ireland was his ninth. He beat O'Sullivan 9-7 in the final. He's not looked back. He's now on 30 ranking titles, and he hasn't really looked back since. I know a couple of blips obviously here and there, but he hasn't looked back since. I would say you're right. This is definitely the best chance since he won that world title, that extraordinary display against Higgins in the final, that he has to win a second one.
I agree totally. And that Northern Ireland you mentioned, Scott, was such a pivotal part of, the Judd revival. He'd been so talented and we'd known what he can do for years before that, but he'd just never been quite consistent with it. But I think that Northern Ireland that tournament was one of the first ones where he took his brother along and they really started working as a team. And, I think his brother deserved the most massive credit because I don't think Judd would have probably gone on to do quite what he's done without having that, he's a brother, he's a friend, he knows him inside out. And, we see him at tournaments respotting the balls for him, but there's a lot more goes into it than that. And, he's always there at the interval with the right words. And, make no doubt about it, Judd Trump doesn't just do it on his own. It's very much team Trump. And for me, that's been, it, whatever he pays his brother, I think he's earned it. And, if
Yeah,
there is a second world title to come this weekend, then I hope Jack celebrates like as much as Judd does because it's his doing as well.
yeah, very much so. Very much so.
So moving swiftly on to the final of the quarterfinals, we had Ronnie O'Sullivan who beat C. Jarwy 13-9. Ronnie was rarely at his best for this game, I think it's fair to say. And C didn't offer too much either. But in that final session, I thought C did play well, and he did give Ronnie a game in that final session. I mean, to push it to 13-9. I think it was 11-9 at the final interval, and then Ronnie played 2 really good frames. And you thought, wow, it's still in the tank there for Ronnie. He was probably as downbeat as you can be in his interview afterwards, which isn't that nice to see because he's just reached the semis of the world once more. But I could see where he was coming from. Apart from those last 2 frames, you may have seen, and they've shown it loads of times, Ronnie crunched a long red down the cushion,
Yes.
which was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
But he isn't doing that as often as he should. And the final frame to win 13-9, he played well that frame as well. But I think there's still a lot of things to iron out in Ronnie's game if he is to want to get back to the top. But doesn't that show how amazing he is and how much he's digging in that he's made the semi-finals of the World Championship without playing anywhere near his best, I think.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I do think none of his opponents have really played to their talents, which is a bit of a shame. Because I think most people in this tournament have played really well, win or lose. But somehow Ronnie's opponents haven't played that well
Yeah.
until today, I think. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that set up 2 absolutely intriguing quarterfinals. Mark Williams against Judd Trump. And the first one to get going was Ronnie against Xiao Tong. Judd v Williams last night, were you watching?
I was indeed, yes. Uh, 5-3 to Judd. They're back at 2:30 this afternoon. They've one session today, they've one session last night, and then I assume they have two tomorrow, do they? So,
Yes, they'll be the morning and the evening tomorrow. So, but very interesting last night. Judd had one of his. It was a session for Judd that he kind of struggled a little bit compared to how he has been
yes.
playing. And I think to get out 5-3 ahead, he'd go to bed last night, wake up this morning, and be pretty damn pleased with that because it could have been 4-all, and on another day, maybe Williams would have taken a lead. But as it is, Judd's 5-3 up and all to play for this afternoon.
Yes, I mean, obviously, Trump has now broken the centuries record for the season. He's on 105. So, so can he make more? Can he push on in that regard? But yes, I would agree with you there. 5-3 probably flatters Judd slightly, but again, 5-3 is not really much of a lead, really. It's you're more
No,
or
it
less
isn't.
even.
It is, especially over this distance, a couple of
Yeah,
frames. We've in the past we've seen even 4 or 5 frames. There's nothing to come back against.
no.
So yeah, I think this afternoon will be very intriguing, and yeah, it's gonna be good. I hope there isn't more than a couple of frames in it by tomorrow because I think we could be all set for a really good day tomorrow with those two. But
Indeed.
moving on to the other semi-final, which was Ronnie O'Sullivan against Xiao Tong, they played out a really interesting and entertaining first session yesterday, Scott, 4-all. What did you make of
Yep.
that?
Well, Zhou Tong started very well. Really, the thing that kept Ronnie in it initially was his safety, I think. Uh, Ronnie just had more what Al McManus might call sort of tablecraft. He had more safety experience, whereas Zhou was doing all the potting. And obviously, we've talked about Ronnie's cue and the vulnerabilities with his long game, but so I think 4-all, both would have been relatively pleased there, because Zhou had something to show for his good start, but Ronnie, despite his vulnerabilities, did manage to get out of the session credibly, if you like.
I agree totally. But overnight, it was announced that Ronnie had changed his tip and his ferrule, so that he really wasn't happy with the cue and those pieces of equipment. He changed those overnight,
Yeah.
and well, we've just had the morning session, Scott, and was that maybe the worst decision ever?
Well, let's just say I'm not breaking anybody's gun. I don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen the morning session, but let's just say O'Sullivan is in a rather deep hole. And
Yeah,
if he doesn't do very well in the session this evening, there's every possibility Zhou Tong could win it with a session to spare. Like, Ronnie, we talk about Ronnie's tip and so on. Take nothing away from Zhou Tong this morning. He was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, that was marvelous, wasn't it?
he was absolutely superb. He's tremendous to watch. And I know there'll be people who, don't agree with him being there or one thing and another. But his talent on the table is unquestioned. And I do honestly think that, for a relatively minor indiscretion compared to what the others had done, I'm so glad to see him back now and playing well. And if he ends up lifting this trophy on Monday night, then the world's his absolute oyster, and it could be amazing for Chinese snooker to finally have a winner at last.
Yeah, I mean, it would be it would be an astonishing story because I mean he's won 7 matches to get here. He looks at the moment like he's going to get to the final. I mean that's an extraordinary story in itself. But if he was to win it, he would actually go because of a rather strange clause in the rankings. He'd actually go up to world number 11 for the start of next season.
Yes, which would be quite incredible from not being on tour and being unranked. So yeah, his future's so bright. I'm sure what happened in the past is long behind him now. But like you said, he's come from the first qualifying round and he looks as fresh as a daisy out there. Yes, he has got youth still on his side. And yes, he hadn't been playing the main tour beforehand, but he just looks incredible, doesn't he? He's so
Oh,
good to watch. And yeah, if he does win with a session to spare tonight, um, well done him, and he'll be a threat to either Judd or Mark in the final because he's just fearless and his long potting is as good as anybody who plays the game. So
yeah.
yeah, just absolutely fantastic this morning, which brings us right up to date there, Scott. We've got another session of Judd and Mark to come at 2:30.
Yeah,
Yeah, so looking forward to the final days now.
indeed. Right. Just before we go, I'll give you the answer to the trivia question that I posed from last time. Now, unfortunately, it has rather come out of date with what happened in the quarterfinals, but nonetheless, the question was, John up until then had played 10 crucible deciders and won 9 of them. So who was the only player that had beaten him in a crucible decider and what year was it? And the answer was O'Sullivan in 1996. But of course that has changed since. But no, that's an extraordinary thing, by the way. And we were both saying we watched that match on YouTube. So it's just extraordinary how the three of them have kept going this length of time.
It really is, and every match we see them playing against each other. I think the matches to treasure now, and yeah, no wonder so much is made of them because they're just three of the best ever, and hope they're still going for a few more years. Yeah.
Yes, well here's our one that I'll put give you the answer to when we come back to review things at the end of the championship. Right, there are name the other three players who have whitewashed O'Sullivan in a session. Name the other three players who whitewashed O'Sullivan in a session at the World Championship. So that's our question for next time. And as I say, we'll be probably back after the final and then we'll have a bit of a break after the final, but we'll let you know when all that takes place. And then, so Kelly, I'll end with uh, sort of the obligatory question at this time of year. Who gets their hands on the trophy on Monday night?
Oh, well, I think most of the way through, I've been thinking Judd Trump's playing solid and well, and he is, no doubt about it. But after this morning, maybe I am turning to Zhao Tong. But whoever it is, I'm going to sit back in the crucible and enjoy it all because I think we've got 4 players in the semi-finals who we should just savour every moment of it. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the last few days of this wonderful championship, Scott.
Thank you very much, Kelly. I'm going to go for Judd, I think, because, particularly if he does well in the session today, like, you know, a final with him and Zhang Tong would be extraordinary, wouldn't it? But
Oh,
I just think that Trump's experience in the final, because the final is an entirely unique match. You can nearly divorce the final from the rest of the tournament in some senses. So I would think probably Trump, but we'll wait and see. And as Dave Henton said on one of his recent Substacks, the excitement's not in the result, it's in the process of finding out. So let's sit back and enjoy the process. And you enjoy, first of all, get to Sheffield safely and then enjoy the last few days.
thank you, Scott, and I'll see you next week.
Will do. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye, everyone.